Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live. Talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynncullenshow@gmail.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Oh, yeah, here I am, I think. Yep. As far as I can tell, I'm here. How you doing? September 19. Good God. Did you watch the funeral? I wasn't going to, and then what happened is I happened to turn on the TV just to see what was going on, and the funeral was over, but they were walking, marching. I don't know where the hell they were going. It was endless. Did you see it? It was endless. And I felt like as I watched it, I had the sound on. I had it on for 2 seconds, and then I knocked it off because the people who were talking, you know, they run out of things to say. And they end up saying stupid things. I happened to hear a stupid thing. That's when I turned it off. What was I can't remember what station I would have been on NBC because it was, I think, Savannah Guthrie. I recognized her voice. And she was trying to say how the Queen had been, you know, really cared about her people, wanted to know about their lives and what was going on, and that she was very much, somebody who was close in a very real way to her people. She was going on and on about how she was not like a snob. She was not this, that, and the other thing. And then she actually said, I mean, she did not live in a gilded palace. That's when I hit the mute button. I don't know. You know, I'll tell you, they do this pomp and circumstance really, really well. And it's mesmerizing in a way, in its slowness, in the costuming. I found myself sort of, you know what else was mesmerizing? And I don't know that I've ever noticed this in my 70 plus years on this planet. That when human beings walk, well, we put one foot down and then we put the other foot down and we are propelled forward. But if you look at a lot of humans walking at the same pace, in the same direction, in neat little rows, and you can observe it from a perch a bit on high, the movement is not so much, it doesn't seem as if it's forward as much as it is a subtle kind of side to side, this subtle kind of sway as left foot hits and right foot hits. It's imperceptible, but when you look at a whole bunch of people walking at the same pace, there is this almost a movement of a small boat that's sitting on a placid lake. Just a little bit of movement, side to side, that would be imperceptible if you were just looking at one person. But with that mass of people, you see the movement, side to side. I became aware that I was sort of being hypnotized, that I was mesmerized by this slow movement back and forth. Wow. Anyway, a very odd way to start the day. Very odd. So, and what a grueling, I have to say, not that well, they're humans, the royal family, having to do that walk behind that, is it a caisson? That seemed like a bit of a grueling thing to do physically. They had to maintain a somber expression. They couldn't scratch their, their nose. They had to keep that numbing beat, footfall after footfall after footfall. And all the time, the eyes of what I understand they're saying, billions of people on them. A lot of people say these guys, live this, extraordinary life and they don't have to do anything for it. Well, they do have to do stuff for it. And it's like this pageantry stuff. It appeared grueling to me. And then if you factor in that they are in mourning for a woman they loved, it just seems maybe it's helpful, that maybe it distracts them, that they have to put on this show. Your mom's dead. Now put on a show. Dress in uncomfortable clothes, have billions of people watching every move you make. God. And after a while, it just seems unseemly to be part of the audience. Just be part of the people looking. I don't know. God almighty. Really. My favorite thing, and see, if I had been doing the commentary, I could not have helped but note it. I doubt that anyone doing commentary did note it. If you know otherwise, let me know. I'll be surprised. But they had to keep changing the camera shot, and it was beautiful. I mean, they lucked out. It wasn't raining. It was a nice day. So, all the color and the boom, boom, that rhythm and the costumes, and I guess they're called uniforms, but I'm thinking of it. It's costumes, it's pageantry, it's a show. And horses, the Queen was very into horses, more than people, I think, horses and dogs. And in that, I regard her actually highly and tend to agree. But so there are horses in this procession as well. And as far as I could tell, they all behaved really well, too. Not even a false move with the horses, except, and this is where horses, they don't know. It was a long schlep. And a horse has to do what a horse has to do. And so in some of the broader shots where you saw a multitude of this swaying, massive march, every once in a while there'd be this slight little, this, well, pile of shit. That it was the only thing that I saw that was ever out of place. There'd be a pile of shit in one shot, and then you don't see it for a while, and then there's a pile of shit in another shot. But my favorite shit shot it was a relatively tight shot of just one group of these costumed men staring straight ahead and walking left, right. And then I saw it. A pile of shit was right in the path. And yep, one foot after another just splat in that pile of shit. And I thought the first guy who hit it, he had to, I think maybe he didn't. If his eyes were straight ahead, maybe he didn't, but he would have felt it. And I'm looking for a flinch or anything, nothing. And then the next guy after him, straight into it. Although by the fourth or fifth guy in the column, it was pretty much flattened out, I would think. But so that they had to like walk through shit and not move a muscle in their faces, showing any disgust or embarrassment or whatever. But I doubt that anybody doing the commenting on TV would have noted that, because that would be hard to note in a decorous way, I would think. God. Oh, lordy. So anyway, that was, I thought, well done. They had some humongously large, tall guys right in front of her casket. I'm obviously by design, like, the big horses, essentially, that were pulling. But they looked to be easily a foot taller than the guys on either side of them. So I was thinking, my God, the work that went into this, even choosing who would be in the parade. And I'm sure in some ways it did come down to the visual aspect of height and wanting pretty much just in between, I mean, a very small, no more than a 2-inch difference in height. But when it seems like the big tall people were put in very specific places, and you take one of those tall people and then you put one of those unbelievable, is that a bear skin? Yeah. Is that bear skin? I think, yeah. Bearskin hat, that big, huge, tall thing on their head. And wow, they'd be like over 7 feet. Which again, in terms of pageantry and impressiveness, okay, I don't. Oh, anyway, there it was. And you won't see another like it. I was thinking, actually, Charles walking behind it thinking, shit, God, this is, next time we do this, I'm going to be in the box. And there won't be anywhere near as many people lining up to see me. I know it. All right, I think I'm done. I think I'm done now. I don't want to be done because I'm looking around at what I've got lying around here. And none of it's as much fun as talking about the Queen's funeral. Damn it. Oh, well, okay. I'll move on. I had trouble sleeping last night. And it's because of what I watched before I went to bed. And it was something I told myself I wasn't going to watch because I knew it would upset me, and I knew that I knew much of what it was going to tell me, and so I thought, just don't. But I did. And it was the Ken Burns bit on the United States and the Holocaust, which is a different spin than, and it's why I thought, okay, just watch it. And as I watch, I mean, I have to say that the reason I couldn't sleep, and for those of you who saw it, and by the way, I recommend what I saw last night. It was 2 hours. I guess it continues sometime tonight, maybe. I don't know if I'll have the I think their PBS is rerunning the Queen's funeral when I think this second installment would have run, and I think it's after that, and it's past my bedtime, so I don't know that I will, but I recommend it, and I recommend it for the very reason that I couldn't sleep last night. The extraordinary familiarity of what I was seeing last night, showing fascism coming to Germany. The just mind-blowing likeness to what we are seeing in our own country right now was chilling. And there is no way, if you are sentient and paying any attention at all, that to look at and to hear what they're telling you about how Hitler came to power and how the German people sort of were asleep at the switch when it happened. You will see that you could, my God, if it were, we're living the same thing right now, right here. I've been saying that for a long time. I was saying fascism before a lot of people were saying fascism. And now anybody who takes issue with what we are seeing here is a growing fascist movement. Anyone who takes issue with that is either an idiot or a fascistic apologist. And all you have to do is watch this documentary about another place and another people and other actors. And we're in the same play. We're doing it all over again. I don't know how anyone could sleep after watching that. It was terrifying. Now, a lot of it I knew because my father, well, he lived it in so many ways, but he spoke of it. And he always wanted his children to understand. I'm having trouble. It's not like, oh, the words weren't there. It's I bit my tongue. He wanted his children to understand the Jew hate. That he had seen in his life, and to warn us of it. And as a young child, I remember being just horrified by stories he would tell of how his family on Webster Avenue in Green Bay, how his family would sit in their living room and turn on the radio and listen to, I guess, what was one of the most popular radio shows at the time. And they would listen not because they were enjoying it, they listened because they felt they needed to know. And it was a show that came out of Michigan, and it was a Catholic priest named Father Coughlin. And he spewed just wall-to-wall Jew hate, anti-Semitism. Now, Michigan was a hotbed because Henry Ford was there, and you won't find more of an anti-Semite than Henry Ford. He did more to spread all the hate about Jews. He did it. He liked Adolf Hitler. And and Adolf Hitler liked him. Let's make that clear. Henry Ford. And throughout the show, people who we have been taught in school to admire and revere are trotted out as just out and out racists and Jew haters. And my God, there was Helen Keller, for God's sake. Helen Keller actually jumping on the eugenics bandwagon. What in the name of God was she thinking? Was she thinking that she, the little child that was to be Helen Keller, that deaf mute of a child, would not have been... What was she thinking? Teddy Roosevelt just spewing such vile stuff. You could just die. You could die. But this is the history they don't teach us. And this is the history that our American fascists today, the Republicans, want to squelch. Little things that you pick up from a documentary like this that blow you away, that never occurred to you. Like World War II, not Germany now, the Japanese. And I often wondered, I'm not a student of the whole Japanese reason for the war. I'm not. And I never had a sense of what we'd done to them to make them attack us like they did. And I still need to educate myself about that. But in the piece, they point out that Americans were always trying to keep people out, which is, of course, what we're doing now. It always animated our politics. The Statue of Liberty has always been this bizarre symbol of a country that is often unbelievably hostile to the tired and the poor. And it was in the 1920s when the Congress finally passed an act that, put quotas on everybody, so that pretty much the only people who were going to get in were white and from Nordic or Anglo countries. And the law went so far as to literally ban anyone who was Asian. Anyone. Used to be they did the Chinese. Then they said Chinese, Koreans, Vietnamese, Laotians, who the hell cares? Japanese. None of those people are stepping foot in our country. The Japanese government at the time that this law was passed in the United States, understandably, took umbrage. And that's the first time I thought, oh, well, I can see if a country said, we consider you vermin and we don't want you mucking up our wondrous gene pool, how that could sort of stick with a group and make them think about payback. So that would just be added into any other payback. But the thing that the documentary makes clear, and this is something I have talked about before, and this is something that needs to get drilled into Americans' heads as our fascist movement grows. The Germans, the Nazis, Hitler and his cohort looked to the United States in admiration for how we had handled those we deemed a little less than human. When the Nazis started writing up their laws to exclude Jews and others, they already had the template, and they used it. They had Jim Crow laws. As a matter of fact, I forgot, was it Goebbels or somebody said, where did you get this? And he said, Mississippi. They said the United States cannot say boo about any of this that we're doing to the Jews, because we learned it from them, how through the legal means, through the halls of our great legislative bodies, and with the nod of approval from our courts, we will allow certain groups of people to be culled from the image of true American, to be given fewer rights, to be terrorized. And the other thing the Germans looked at with great admiration is how America had dealt with the people who were here before they came. Genocide. Pretty much genocide. So when you learn that the Nazis and Hitler looked with admiration on how we, America, dealt with Native Americans, dealt with Black Americans, and learned from them, you realize how amazing it is that we have not gotten to where we are right now. There is a racist, hate-filled, fear-filled, fascist streak running through this country. And where it used to be a little bit of a little trickle that would sometimes, with certain changes in the environment, turn into a raging brook. Who knows? We are looking at the potential of a tidal wave of fascism, since one of our political parties has gone full out fascist. And unlike the people of Germany, we know where this leads. It leads to roundups. It leads to mass incarceration. It leads to genocide. And we have an election, and it is 50 days from today. And there has never been a more important one in my lifetime. Because I hope, enough Americans are finally roused from their slumber, their self-satisfied slumber, to realize the precipice we are standing on, teetering on. Trump was pretty close to Pittsburgh this weekend. He was in Youngstown. Have you seen any of the video from that rally? By the way, let's talk about rallies. Who had rallies? Big rallies. Fascists have rallies. They have rallies to make the crowd feel part of something massive. They have rallies so that they communicate one to the other and feel empowered. They have rallies to inculcate the lies and myths that aggrieve them. And who loves having rallies? Yeah. Now, at the rally in Youngstown, if you see pictures, you will see Americans cheering their Führer. And here's what you'll see that I had not seen before. Their arms. One arm is raised up. If you look at pictures of the rally in Youngstown, at the end, that crowd looked like it was doing the Nazi salute. Now, I looked into it. It's not quite the Nazi salute. They're holding their arm up with one finger up, and the finger is a QAnon thing. Something about one for all and all for one. It doesn't matter, guys. It's the same thing as a fascist salute. It's the same thing. It's camaraderie, tribalism, symbolism. Terrorism. And when you see the polls and you see how many Americans still, right now, have a favorable impression of, let's say, Donald Trump, or pick a fascist, Mastriano, DeSantis, it should chill your blood. Because the three men I just named are all fascists. I can understand how if you are a white Christian, heterosexual, especially man, how this might not touch you viscerally as it touches me. And it touches me viscerally because I'm a Jew. It touches black people viscerally because they're black. It touches gay people and trans people because they're not heterosexual. It touches Muslims. It touches atheists because they are not what's considered the norm. They are not white. They are not Christian. They are not heterosexual. And it's odd that it could touch women, since women make up the majority of people on this globe, and yet they have been relegated to a submissive class. So to a certain extent, yes, it touches women too, viscerally. And I don't know if you don't have that ability to viscerally I mean it, in your gut, feel the rage, the fear, that all those people I just mentioned are capable of feeling if they're awake in this time, in this place. And what's amazing is what's driving all of this is that those white, Christian, heterosexual men are scared. Ah! Poor the poor widow kids. They're scared. Hey, when they get scared, you know, they act up. And yeah, we've got an entire political party that exists and realizes that the power it holds and could continue to hold is absolutely dependent on keeping those people scared. So I think I've said my piece. I don't know. If you haven't watched that, I would watch it. It's American history that you were not taught. Okay? And I don't have to go beating the drum for Ken Burns. I mean, he does good work. This was good work. Yeah. Interesting. And it is mind-blowing how all of these issues have been with us since day one. And man, we just seem incapable of dealing with them. Let me talk about, at heart, immigration. Immigration issues, which have been in the news with a despicable and sadistic, cynical little game playing that DeSantis pulled off, using desperate people as props. Flying desperate people to a place for a joke to own the libs. He's playing, of course, to the racists. He's playing to the ones who are afraid of anybody who doesn't look like, them, doesn't talk like them, come from the same place they came from, all of that. Unbelievable. But you know what? The one thing that we Americans have to acknowledge is we have a totally broken immigration system. Total. Broken. It does not work. And consequently, desperate people are toyed with. Our side is not I don't think, honest on this issue. To have open borders would mean that we would literally be overrun by every human on Earth who's looking for a better life. And we can't even take care of our own. It's true. We have this cruel government that refuses to take care of the people who are already here. So we do have to figure out how we are going to police our borders, who gets in, have some kind of a system that makes some kind of sense and is not based on racism. Our side is not honest on this issue. The other side is just ugly and shows their incredible love of racism and violence toward desperate people. And with the climate crisis is and already is and will continue to create more and more refugees from drought, from famine. And the question arises, what are we to do? What does a humane and civilized people do? And I think that's the question that any documentary about the Holocaust uncomfortably brings up too, which is why I bet an awful lot of people said to themselves, I ain't watching that. I know about the Holocaust. I'm sick about the Holocaust. I'm sick of it. And you know why you're sick of it? You're sick of it because it makes you really uncomfortable. You're sick of it, because you really don't want to have to. It's sort of like trying to imagine infinity, right? It hurts your head if you really let yourself slide into the reality of what happened in Europe. And there's no way to do it and not feel lousy. So who wants to feel lousy? No one. Who wants to be bothered with the thoughts of what would I have done? Well, I got news for you. Whether you want to be bothered or not, it's coming here. The same people who brought you the Holocaust have taken over the Republican Party. The same people who slaughtered men, women, children, old people, it didn't matter, with an efficiency that only, of course, the Germans could muster. There are people here in this country that are using the exact same playbook. Oh, I know it's early. So somebody who says something like I just said will be accused of being, well, I mean, she's obviously off her rocker. I mean, she's slightly overstating things. Mm-hmm. Well, It's never comfortable hearing that you're on a road that leads to a destination that you do not want to get to. And so that requires either stopping marching toward it or turning away, or I'm not sure, but it requires action other than silently, like those left, right marches that I woke up to today with a Queen's funeral. It means stopping, thinking, and taking action. There is no way anyone watching that Ken Burns show last night could not have seen the similarities, the uncanny similarity to what was being said, what was being done in the 1930s in Germany, and what is being done in 2022 in the cradle of democracy, the United States of America. Well, good God. You know what? I feel like I'm done. I don't. I have other things here, but nothing seems to. Well, here, I see one thing that will stay on topic. I mentioned this guy, Luke Mogelson, to you last week. He's written a book. He still is, he's a journalist who spent a lot of time in Afghanistan and Lebanon and places where, democracy isn't exactly present. And he's been in war zones. He's seen countries come apart at the seams. And he has now written a book called The Storm is Here. And there's another book out by another author, Andy Campbell, who sort of embedded himself with the Proud Boys. And both these guys, independent of each other, have come to the same conclusion. That we are heading into something terrifying. And what they're saying to us is that there ain't any avoiding it now. We're heading into it, okay? Here's a quote from one of them. I really do believe it's not just going to be MAGA rallies. It's not just going to be political violence at Proud Boy rallies, or it's going to be political violence at any civic event that happens to fall in the crosshairs of Donald Trump and company. So you can imagine almost anything that they decide, and that would be any place where the likes of us are gathered, will be a place that they can attack. They say it is hard to imagine how connected all these people are, how they are, it might look to us like all this is sort of like haphazard, happens a little bit here, is fueled by these wacky, radio shows or whatever. No. And the common thread of all the people that are being pulled into this is a sense of dispossession. They're feeling that something's being taken away from them. Their heritage, their white fucking privilege, these racial minorities, these immigrants. And then, of course, they have to come up with the old stories that help put it all together, which is the Jews. The Jews are manipulating all of this. And here's something that should make you a little uncomfortable. Members of Congress and administration officials are hamstrung in their ability to pursue members of groups like the Proud Boys because of our freedom of speech and freedom of assembly. And know this, that in the United States, it is not illegal to be part of a domestic extremist group. Now, that could be a domestic terrorist group, of course, but it is not illegal. So, the guys who are really paying attention and are listening to these dispossessed, whining, scared thugs, they are afraid. And they do not see us. Disappearing. Wait, I'm sorry. What happened? I didn't get any of these emails until just now. I'm sorry, I'm screaming. I just looked and I have 1,000 emails here from you guys and I never. Damn it. I'm sorry. Okay. And my time's up now. God damn it. Maybe we'll get back into it. Oh, Jesus. Okay. Yeah. Oh, I see Milton. See, Milton, you had sent me the picture with the people in Youngstown with the Nazi salute thing. And yeah, that looks exactly. Where'd you get that? From Youngstown last night or from the documentary about the Nazis last night? Jesus Christ. All right. Listen. One of my favorite phrases from the Bible. I think we should all think of it now. Gird thy loins. Yep. We all got to gird our loins. Talk to you tomorrow.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.